My grandmother's house had been empty for 10 years, a decade of silence, collecting dust and memories. When my parents announced we were moving in, I was thrilled. It was a sprawling, two-story home, a relic from another time, filled with antique furniture and secrets whispered in the creaks of its floorboards. For me, it was an adventure. For my parents, it was a practical solution, a way to save money and take care of the family property. But none of us knew that we weren't the only ones moving in. Grandma, it seemed, had never really left. The first few weeks were a blur of unpacking boxers and scrubbing away years of neglect. The house slowly came back to life under our care. The smell of old wood and mothballs was replaced by lemon cleaner and the aroma of my mom's cooking. We settled into a new routine. I claimed the attic bedroom, a cozy nook with a slanted ceiling and a round window overlooking the garden. It felt like my own private castle. But castles, as I would soon learn, often have ghosts. It started subtly, a door creaking open on its own, a cold spot in the middle of a warm room. We dismissed it as the quirks of an old house. Ose's settled drafts are common. We had logical explanations for everything. My dad would just laugh and say, "That's just the house talking." But the talking started to get more specific, more personal. My grandmother was a woman of habit. Every night, around 9 p.m., she would walk from her bedroom at the end of the hall to the kitchen for a glass of water, then back again. Her steps were slow and deliberate, a familiar shuffle that my mom remembered from her childhood. One night I was up late, reading when I heard it. A soft, shuffling sound moving down the hallway. Shuff. Shuff. Shoof. I froze, listening. The sound stopped right outside my parents' bedroom, then turned and went back the way it came. The next morning at breakfast, I asked, "Mom, were you up walking around last night?" She shook her head, sipping her coffee. "No, sweetie, I was asleep by 9:30. "Why?" I described the shuffling sound. A strange look passed over her face, a flicker of something I couldn't quite read. "It was probably just the pipes," she said, a little too quickly. But I saw the way she and my dad exchanged a glance. They had heard it too. From then on, the shuffling became a nightly occurrence, always around 9 p.m. It was so predictable, you could set your watch by it. We tried to ignore it, to drown it out with the TV or music, but the sound cut through everything. It was a gentle, yet persistent reminder that we were sharing our home. My initial excitement about the house began to curdle into a low-grade fear. I started leaving my light on when I went to sleep. The real turning point came a few weeks later. I was heading to the bathroom in the middle of the night. The hallway was long and dark, with a single, dim night light casting long, dancing shadows on the wall. As I stepped out of my room, I saw it. At the far end of the hall, a figure was standing. It was tall and thin, just a silhouette against the faint light from the living room downstairs. It was perfectly still. My heart hammered against my ribs. I couldn't scream. Couldn't move. It was just a shape, but I knew. I knew who it was. It had the same slight, stooped posture I remembered from old photographs of my grandmother. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, locked in a silent standoff with a shadow. Then, as slowly as it appeared, it turned and glided into the room that used to be hers. The air grew instantly warmer, and the oppressive feeling in the hallway lifted. I scrambled back into my room and dove under the covers, shaken. The next day, I told my parents everything. This time, there were no easy explanations. My mom's eyes filled with tears. "I've seen her too," she whispered. Just a glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I didn't want to scare you. It turned out my dad had also been experiencing things stools in his workshop moved. The faint scent of my grandmother's favorite lavender perfume lingering in her old sewing room. We were all scared, but my mom's fear was mixed with a strange kind of comfort. "She's not here to hurt us," she said, her voice soft. This was her home for over 50 years. She raised me here. Maybe she's just checking in on us, making sure we're taking care of her house. Her words shifted my perspective. Was I looking at this all wrong? Was this shadow in the hall not a terrifying phantom, but the lingering presence of family? A protector, not a threat. We decided, as a family, to stop being afraid. Instead of jumping at every creak and shuffle, we started to acknowledge it. When we'd hear the footsteps at night, my mom would say softly, "Good night, Mom." When a door opened on its own, my dad would call out, "Come on in, Grandma, make yourself at home." It sounds strange, I know, but it worked. The fear evaporated, replaced by a sense of peace. The house no longer felt haunted. It felt occupied, full of history and a quiet, watchful love. The shadow in the hallway didn't disappear. I'd still see it sometimes, a fleeting shape in the periphery, but it no longer made my blood run cold. Instead, I'd offer a small smile and a quiet "Hi, Garon," before going about my business. We were living with a ghost, but she wasn't a stranger. She was family. My grandmother's body was gone, but her love for her home, for her family, was so strong that it left an echo behind. An echo that walked the halls at night, not to scare us, but to watch over us. We weren't just living in my grandmother's abandoned house. We were sharing it with her spirit. And in the strangest way, it finally felt like home. Thanks so much for listening to my story. It's one that has stayed with me my entire life. If you've ever had an experience you can't quite explain, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories. It really helps the channel out. Take care, and I'll see you next time.